Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. We're going to break down some visual effects stuff from dragons to the return of Lord Voldemort. Let's get into it.
Everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. So Nick, after the third Harry Potter, they kind of all blurred together for me. So getting to look at these visual effects again kind of reminds me what this did. And honestly, doing these week to week, how it differed quite a bit from the previous one. So based on The Prisoner of Azkaban, right? Versus this one.
Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. How do you feel the things have progressed? So is it same director or different director?
Different
director. So I felt like that was really apparent. Was that really apparent for you as well? Or
yeah, you can tell it's not as stylized as Prisoner of Azkaban, huh? Yeah, the visuals of Prisoner of Azkaban were so distinct with the look and feel of the film.
Well, even a lot of the visual effects were slow camera moves, whereas when you get into visual effects in this film, they're a lot quicker cuts, a lot more action. I mean, not that they weren't action before, but the cuts were still sometimes very long shots. So it was funny just jumping from one movie to the other. I'm like, oh, this is a very, very different movie.
Yes,
but still very fun. You can see the darker tones still very much intact. In fact, getting darker, which of course I'm partial to, and some really, really cool effects as well.
Yes.
Did you anything you wanted to start off with?
Yeah, let's just start off with the portal key. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. They're spinning around, but man, there's that epic shot when they're like at the pinnacle, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you just see the background spinning around them. I'm like, dude, that's so sick. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
They probably used the view. You think view was the thing when they were making
I'd have to look at it again because that went by so fast. So it was just a world spinning around them really, really
so
quick.
they just kind of had a world.
I mean, so VUE is the software application that's made more for like ecosystems, like if you have jungles or things like that. I think they used it quite a bit on like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, which not a great movie, but that's an example of some movies. I think they didn't use it on Avatar. I think they wrote their own stuff for that. But anyway, it's used a lot for ecosystems and environments things. So maybe, but without,
because it was such like a wide panning shot. I was like, I wonder if they use that to build the landscape around them, in order to do the spin. But something that always bugged me was the way they floated down. It's like like a Mary Poppins almost. The way they're walking, like that's not cool at all. Like
that made me kind of giggle. I mean, it was fine. I mean, what would someone look like if just that they're doing that while coming down? Like, do they really need to do that? I mean, it reminded me of they're suspended from a wire and they're just
exactly. I don't know. It just didn't bother me,
but it made me kind of chuckle a little bit. It was supposed to be like a fun, whimsical thing.
Yes, yeah, I know, but it just always I was so funny. Like is that supposed to be cool? Like if there's any time to use a superhero landing.
No, do not do super. I'd rather have digga than superhero. Like I can't. I'm so sick of those. Yeah.
Okay, and then we go into the World Cup thing, the Quidditch World Cup. Like where they get to do.
All I can think of about all these games. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but all I can think about is like, what type of school is this? Someone's gonna die. Like they're almost drowning. They're getting almost killed by dragons. I'm like, okay, you want to put some pain and challenge in it, but. I'm like, how many kids have died over the years doing this? Yeah, it's really weird.
You would think they would have a better insurance policy if you went to that school.
When the dragon broke the chain, I'm like, okay, really good job, groundskeepers. It's like, come on, you guys, do better. Hey, Hogwarts, do better.
I know the maze is rigged.
Yeah, I know. It's just.
I know it really is a dangerous place. You're probably safer being homeschooled at that point.
Hogwarts at home.
So they go to the Quidditch World Cup, right? And I mean, I think it's cool because they show how awesome magic is, and they make but the dome just looks so generated.
Oh, you didn't like the dome? I thought it was fine.
Cool. I like the visuals of it, but I think there's a scene when they fly over them, and the actors aren't even like noticing that they fly over them. Like they're just like they're not even reacting.
Yeah. Which is always tough. I mean. Even when you're on a green screen or blue screen set and they're recording that stuff, I mean, which is kind of changing with the Mandalorian and the live action virtual production, things like that. But they're just like, all right, look up. I mean, they don't even really tell you because they don't know at that point when they're going to have things flying over. Yeah. That's one of the big, hard things to do.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's just so I love stuff like that. I was going frame by frame right now, and I was like, dude, this is so silly.
Oh no.
But I mean, it looks good. The thing that really threw me off though in this shot is the dancing leprechaun. Like it looks so bad. Like the puppet look and everything. Like I get they're
We
trying
had
to make
smog fireworks. That was cool, but the dancing leprechaun fireworks, and not so much.
True, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
Oh, really?
the dragon, but the dragon had more of a firework feel to it.
Yeah,
where this
yeah.
just feels like it's a model that has like
Completely animated,
like
yeah,
particles
yeah.
in it and stuff like that. It doesn't look
yeah.
like it's a fireworks show, I guess.
Again, not meant to look realistic, but still can be a little bit off-putting, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I just wanted to bring up the skull in the sky with the snake.
Yeah, so one thing I really liked about these films, especially going through like Nick having picked out the clips in rapid fire, is I love the particle work, whether it's like the skull in the sky or when at the end all of Voldemort's followers are kind of coming down in smoke. So the industry standard tool for that is Houdini. I don't know anything about using Houdini, but I'm assuming that's probably what they use. You can do it in other things as well, but I love that type of stuff, the simulations and the particles and stuff like that.
Do you think it was just an image? Or do you think it was actual 3D model?
You'd have to show me the other. You'd have to show me the model again or the shot again for me to really be able to tell.
I feel like it was just an image that they just warped.
Yeah, I have to look at stuff over and over.
The snake looks 3D, but the skull itself, I just feel like is an image, and they probably put like a flag wave effect on it, or maybe a turbulence to kind of get
displacement
that.
and turbulence.
Yeah, displacement. Thank you. Yes, the displacement maybe. Anyways, I thought it looked amazing. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
They do such a good job with these films with like stuff flying around, like how they had the carriage flying over, and I think all camera angles is what helps that stuff out so much. Like having a low angle,
sure.
like a flyby, like he's doing the whole landing sequence and all that stuff. It looks so amazing. But dude, the particle of the water effects when the ship comes out of the water.
Yeah.
Do you not remember that shot?
No.
Okay, we'll skip it. Ferret scene?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dude, isn't that like the simplest stuff you can do? Just have an actor do this and put a 3D model in there and animate it, and it just makes it look so good.
To animate the weight of everything going up and down can be hard, right? Or no?
Yeah, and that's timing and all that stuff. But like, I mean, talk about like a pretty simple shot that's so effective.
But fun though. So
it's so effective.
Oddly, I wasn't paying attention much to the animation. I used to have a ferret, so I'm like, oh, it's a ferret. I was all excited. Did you even know I used to have a ferret or no?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I did like kind of the like when he was casting the spell, like the swirl down and then it was into the ferret. I don't know if in that case they need to do an actual morph. It's just more of like, kind of going and then kind of fading into it. Not sure, but really cool. Like camera work, I think if I recall correctly, you kind of followed down with the swirl down to the ground with the ferret. So cool camera work. Even though I think the third one is probably my favorite as far as cinematography and DP, at least that I can recall. Again, the last number of movies I've only seen probably once or twice each, but still some really, really good camera work in this. Really cool color. I like the darker palette.
And then I thought they did such a good job. Like I want to call this like the hand effects. Like there were so many like different things in hands and on faces, like tracking like animals. Like you had the dragons in the palm of the hands when they picked out the dragons. I'm like, man, it looks so sick having a miniature dragon.
Yeah, and that is and a couple things about that. So one, I really like the design of the dragons. Like the design looked really, really cool. They looked very different, but they don't look like run-of-the-mill dragons. Like and a lot of people like Smaug in the Hobbit films. I thought he just looked like a run-of-the-mill dragon. Now I'm biased because I'm looking at the old animated one that I grew up with, where he's just this gnarly, sideburn looking dragon dog. But I thought the dragons looked really cool in this. But yeah, what Nick is saying, like when you have something on the hand interacting with it, not only do you have to animate that thing, which is very hard, but you have to 3D model the hand so it gets accurate shadows being cast on it, and you have to match things. And very hard to do. Like CG interaction with live action is probably some of the hardest things to do. And yeah, it looks great, huh? Yeah. It looks great.
And it's amazing too. Those dragons look just as good as the Game of Thrones dragons.
Yeah. Well, and
a million times better than the Witcher dragon.
Sorry, Witcher. I love you, but yeah, you had a rough time.
We don't like your fried chicken.
But you also got to think about how far back this is too. This is way before The Hobbit, and it looks just as good, if not better. I think, at least design wise. That's more design choices, though. You know, this I just like the design of these dragons and things like that. But they hold up wonderfully, like wonderfully.
Yeah, and then the whole scene with the spider in the hand, and Professor Moody's like throwing it across the room and all that stuff.
Again, those are really hard shots, really hard. And you can imagine from an acting standpoint, it's really hard too. All right, there's a spider thing on your hand, freak out, like that's hard to act to because you have nothing to really interact with. Yeah.
No, it's true, and I thought the kids did a good job, especially when it goes on
it's like
Malfoy's face, and he's like after he's laughing at Ron.
And it's probably hard because not only at that point, not only are you just doing a hand that's kind of moving a little bit, you have a crazy acting where he's freaking out. You have to model that so all the shadows cast correctly. It's really hard shots, but really cool. Like I never once thought about does it look good or not. I was just kind of enjoying the scenes.
So Sirius's black face in the fire. What did you think?
You know what? I think I can't tell you the other names off the top of my head, but I feel like trying to make fire talk never turns out well. I don't know.
They kind of had fun with the charcoals and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like with the face, but it's
you know what I thought might have been fun is as he's talking, little bits of charcoal fall, but it's always one solid piece moving. I mean, it didn't look bad. I mean, I'm sure it was very hard to do, and it you could tell who it is, which is a feat in and of itself, but. It looked a little bit weird compared to some of the other effects. But again, I've never seen talking ash before, so I can't tell you exactly what it's supposed to look like.
Did you ever see the anime Hell's Moving Castle?
See, Nick,
it's a Miyazaki
if he asks
film?
me if I've seen X anime, that means probably no. I've seen one anime my entire life.
Okay. Because there's a character, Lucifer, it's a flame.
Oh,
and he talks and stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe it'd be fun if it was just a talking flame, maybe. Instead of like the charcoal, but I mean, for what they're trying to
fine.
do,
Yeah, it worked fine.
It works good.
And again, we have to remember, even though the subject matter is getting darker and a little bit more adult oriented, it's still a young person's movie.
And then they would like let out little sparkles like out of his mouth when it would open, which I thought was cool. Like when he was breathing and stuff.
They did some really cool stuff. Yeah.
That was very clever. And then of course we talked about the dragon, but what did you think about the scenes with the dragon flying around? Hogwarts and all that stuff.
I mean, from what nothing's standing out to me, so that's usually a good sign. I mean,
it reminded me of a video game, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like like there's that scene in the new Hobbit film when they're running around, and it just felt so video game-ish. It just kind of felt like a video game. Kind of like they added it for maybe some other purposes or something like that. I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't fit into the movie.
I have to look up them again. Sometimes you have to watch something a couple times.
But it looks beautiful. I love seeing the epic landscapes around Hogwarts. It's just so beautiful. You have the black lagoon or the black lake right there, and it's just it looks so good. Speaking about the black lagoon, what do you think of the underwater stuff? The gills.
You know what? I really like underwater. There's. I thought it, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I started thinking Arnold Schwarzenegger good, like I started thinking
you and Arnold, man.
I know, because he kind of made funny sounds with it. He's like, I was like, oh, he's almost making the sounds too. Oh no, but you can depict underwater kind of like night scenes. Like, do they make night just very dark? Do they make it blue tinted? Do they make it green tinted? Like, there's so many ways. Same thing with water. Sometimes you get ripples in the water. So I like this kind of hazy water they put them in. It kind of has a green tint. A lot of the movie had a green tint, but I really like the water. I thought it was really fun. The mermaids I thought were cool. Are they mermaids or harpies? Harpies are the ones that kind of I don't know what the actual name was.
I don't know. I think it's a mix maybe between that, but I think they're mermaids. Oh, I don't know.
I thought they were really fun designs. There's a couple times where they were talking, they looked a little bit cartoony in their expressions, but that was very fleeting, I think. But overall, I thought they worked really well.
And I think for the kids that were like tied up and dangling, Ron and Hermione and Cho, and I forget the little sister's name. I think those were mannequins that they built.
I think so. Yeah, they kind of look like and honestly, that'd be the better way to do it. It's like, okay, instead of having a model and get the cloth look like it's staying in place or just barely moving, it's like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense and just kind of suspend them or whatever they did for it. Yeah.
And I love the shot when all those like octopus guys like attack him.
Yeah, just
when he like stuns them all. I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
I can watch shots like that all day.
and again, even though Prisoner of Azkaban is maybe our favorite. Still beautiful cinematography and beautiful shots and really, really cool stuff. And really, again, and I've been saying this every time we've been going, but you can see the leaps and bounds. It's not as big as the difference between Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban. That was the biggest jump, but this is still quite a step. Like instead of just one winged flying creature, now we have like 3 Pegasus type characters on screen at once, and they all look really good. So it's like,
but think about it too, right? You had all those like octopus guys attacking him. It looks so much better than the spider scene when they were just swinging and stuff at the spiders. And that's like a similar kind of thing, you know. And
that's one movie back. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Two movies? No, one movie. Two movies back. 2 movies back.
Oh, was that the second one? Boy, I'm getting mixed up.
And then, but then, like, if you think about it too, though, like the Dementors, there was like all those 50 Dementors at the end of Prisoner of Azkaban too.
Yeah. That looked really, really good too. Yeah.
But like Prisoner of Azkaban, I love that film so much. But it's like the framing and how he sets up the shots for those just make it look even more epic too. I feel like, oh gosh, such a good job. If you haven't seen our visual effects of Prisoner of Azkaban, you got to watch it. Oh, we break down the cuts and stuff. It's so much fun.
If nothing else, just so you can admire the shots and the things that we point out. We're not trying to make ourselves sound smart. We're just trying to like admire like how great the shots are and how they lead the eye. And it's more of like, this is kind of like not a labor of love, but it's just we're doing this because we really enjoy it, and hopefully it's something that other people will look at a little bit differently and be able to agree or disagree.
Totally.
You know, it's kind of fun stuff.
And then what did you think of the vines when it was pulling Cedric in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's dark, you know, but looking at him, I thought it looked good. Like, I mean, it didn't look super fake to me. You know, my favorite really vines. If you've ever seen Evil Dead, this is like total budget filmmaking. But I love the vines in that, so but that's totally campy, low budget. But yeah, I always think of that. But yeah, they look good. Yeah, you said you liked them.
Yeah, I thought they did such a good job, just with like the stiffness to them when they move and stuff. So good. Okay, now let's get to the return of Lord Voldemort. What do you think of that transformation burning fire baby to
embryo to Voldemort? And so Nick and I are by the time you see this, it might already be released or it's going to be upcoming, but we had redone certain shots from Harry Potter and might have included Voldemort. But anyway, so we kind of bridged the gap of how he looks in the first movie, where he looks a completely different looking character, to how he looks in, you know, now that we have this movie where he's completely back and he's Ralph Fiennes as the actor and actress, or as the actor. And almost when he's turning from that embryo into, you know, his final form as Ralph Fiennes, I almost feel like they're bridging that gap in that kind of transformation. He looks more like kind of, you know, like kind of sickly-ish, and then he goes into looking the way he does, which serves the story perfectly. But I feel like they almost bridge the gap or trying to address that. Okay, he looked different before. Did you get that at all or not really?
Yes, no, I did.
Okay.
But, dude, how intense is this visual effects stuff? I mean, I know we kind of seen the Pirates of the Caribbean with the Davy Jones,
the undead pirates.
You know what I mean?
Davy Jones. Thing. Yeah, still holds up perfectly, by the way. Yeah.
You know, the whole thing with the flat nose and the technical, like the effects all right here. That's all 3D.
And that's such a hard, like, artistic decision to make. Okay, we're gonna make the guy not have any nose in any shots, and you can't just cover that with makeup because, you know, unless you don't really have a nose, and Ralph Fiennes does, you have to take
yes,
that off.
He does.
And that's so hard to do. And so I'm honestly actually surprised because in the books, does he have just slits there?
Or yeah, he's like snake.
Okay. So they did have to kind of do that to follow along. But in the first Harry Potter film, he had a nose, right? Mm-hmm. So they made a conscious decision. Okay, we're going to do this. I mean, that's a gutsy move because that's very hard to do for all the shots. And he's not like a central character in a million shots, but he's in a good number of shots in these next number of movies. And they set this, okay, this is what he looks like, final design. Boom, we're going to have to do this from now on, which is crazy, you know?
It looks fantastic. Yeah. It's like flawless almost.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you never once think about it looking funky. I mean, we're talking light years better than Justice League Superman lip guy, you know, and obviously it's in a slightly different spot, but that's still a very expressive region of your face. So, you know, that's all leading in. You have to blend that in. Yeah. So one thing to kind of note about that, you guys, is when you have something that you're replacing. So we were talking about Harry Potter when the dragon's on his hand earlier, they probably told him, don't move your hand all that much. But when you're doing all these crazy movements and the angle's changing. So there's a thing called match moving, where you kind of match move the camera, the real camera, to the CG camera, so you can add in stuff. But then when you're actually tracking an object, it's referred to as object tracking. That's really hard to do, because you have to tell, okay, only pay attention to these static parts of the face, but don't pay attention to all the lips and stuff. But if you do need that to deform, you have to actually make sure it's following along with the muscles correctly. And that's really, really hard to do. So honestly, those are extremely hard shots to do as well. And like you said, there's never really even once in any of these movies moving forward that you ever question it not looking. You never stop to think that, oh, that looks funky, you know.
Not at all. There's even some close-ups too when he's doing the fight with Harry, where he's like, his lips like, he's like really getting into it. I'm like, man, it looks freaking amazing. Okay, so when I was growing up, I preferred Star Wars over Harry Potter, because I always thought lightsabers were a little bit more cooler than just guys going like this for hours. But man, the stories behind these fights are so what makes these fights so great, right? His parents coming out, Cedric did, you know, this whole like connection, and we're starting to get that there's something between their wands and them. There's some kind of connection, and you just kind of get the visuals and all that stuff. But man, the lighting on the characters themselves look spot on. Like this whole sequence looks so good. This whole last sequence, I don't want to say compared to the rest of the film, but you can tell like the visual effects in this, like, just maybe more time was spent on it. You know, who knows, or maybe more effort was given towards
you're referring to versus the previous movies, right? That's what you're referring to.
I'm talking about the earlier part of the films. Like, I feel like the beginning of the film during the Quidditch match, stuff like that, it wasn't as much detail compared to like the end of the film. I feel like once you got to the dragon fight and then like the maze, like I feel like just the visual effects just got like the water stuff, like it's just heavy. It's so heavy compared to the other films too. So heavy with the visual effects.
Well, and you always have certain sequences and visual effects houses. You're like, okay, these are our hero sequences. These are the ones we really need to focus on. These are going to set the bar. These are the hardest ones. So obviously, you probably spent a lot of time on that versus some of the other ones. But I remember in previous videos, you were saying when the kids or the teachers would use their wands, it looked kind of cheesy. It looked kind of, not cheesy, but not like this. Like this is like hardcore. And even if you think of the earlier Star Wars films, when they're doing lightsabers, it's not interactive lighting, but this is fully light flickering, almost like, you know, full on lightning. They tried to mimic that some in the later Star Wars. In close-ups, they just have lights going by, but this is like full interact. So I'm curious, do you think they completed the digital doubles of the characters to have the light fall on the garments, or do you think they had the light flickering and then they actually had to match the CG to the live action light?
They probably had a light flickering.
And then had to match the CG to that.
Yeah,
that would be a lot easier.
Right? Gandalf's staff, whenever he uses as a light, they have a bulb up there.
But that wasn't like all kinds of... that was like a quick thing. Like this is very different. But you know what? It's funny. What you said works perfectly, because if you just have two guys squaring off shooting... It looks pretty for a while, but if nothing else was going on, you'd be like, okay, you know, after a while, an effect without a story behind it starts to get boring. But then they start bringing in the other characters, the parents and stuff.
Which is in the book. It's all straight out of the book, but it's just, you know, I mean, visually when you see it though and everything, it looks amazing.
It gives you a lot more. It adds to the stakes. It adds to what's going on. Yeah, context. Yeah, I mean, and that's the big. I mean, I always quote the George Lucas thing from the saga behind the saga, whatever it is, where he talks about, a special effect without a story is a boring thing, and you know they gave you the beauty of it, but then also they gave you other things to look at and think about as it's going through, and it's beautiful. And the only downside is that there's not really, in any of the wand fights that I remember, they're just kind of squaring off. They're never like, you know, all kinds of movement and things like that. But really, really
it kind of gets phony in the battle for. Never mind, I won't go there. We'll wait until we cover it.
Sorry, I get Nick excited. When Nick gets excited, you guys, he's like, John, we're gonna. It's like you can't stop. I'm like it's gonna pop.
We're stopping. We're saving that. We're saving that rant. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
The effects are absolutely beautiful. I can't think of really any moments where it just completely
broke down. There was a couple little bit of funky ones, but overall though,
it's so fleeting. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, we're looking at this years and years and years and years later, and that's when you know you've done something really well. Like we always go back to Jurassic Park. Hey, that is as old as it can get for CG, full CG effects, and yet it still works perfectly.
Sorry, I totally remembered. What'd you think of the Transformer hand?
Oh, when he got his hand
liquid
back?
hand.
Yeah, you know what?
That's totally Transformer, or not the Transformers, Terminator. Oh my gosh.
You know what? It kind of took me out of it just for a second, because you would think getting a hand back would be a very organic thing, and that's more of an industrial kind of chrome looking thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of weird, but and didn't really fit the kind of aesthetic they have going in this movie too, like more like naturey kind of looking stuff.
Yeah,
It didn't
so
bother me. It looked
in
fine.
the book, I think in the book it's made so if he ever betrays him, like it's controlled by Voldemort. He kind of like connected to
Oh,
him.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So maybe that's the thought behind it. Interesting.
Yeah, so like spoilers alert though. That's why like later on in the later stories, when he tries to kill Harry with the hand, because there's a moment where he stops because since he spared his life in the third film, he's like there was a moment where he stopped thinking maybe I shouldn't. The hand betrayed him and he ended up choking
Oh,
himself
interesting.
because there was like a connection there. But
Do they talk about the context of that in the movie,
No.
or just
No.
Which is fine. Again, we were talking about just in another video we did just a little bit ago. It's like you don't have to explain everything, and it's kind of fun for the people who read the books. Like I haven't, unfortunately, but you get that little extra context. So really, really cool stuff. Do you any other things? I really enjoyed.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. You should check out our other ones and our deepfakes. We've been covering Harry Potter stuff like crazy. If you like this, we're going to cover all the Harry Potter films, breaking down the visual effects. We've been doing deepfakes, collabing with Brian Seeker. Check them out. We did Adam Driver as Snape, Meryl Streep as Professor Umbridge, Stephen Fry as Slughorn. We got so much stuff.
And we're not just plugging these to get views or anything. I mean, obviously that's great, but we have so much fun talking about this stuff. It's like we want to share it. Honestly, we love the kind of interaction that we've been getting in the comments and stuff like that. So it's a fun thing. Like, we're not doing this just to do it like, oh, we're gonna start a business or whatever. Like, this is fun stuff. So please give those of you if you like what you're seeing, and let us know what you think, and give us other ideas as well. Like, we've gotten some really fun stuff just by feedback and things like that. So thank you very much for watching, you guys. This is always really, really fun. So check out asart.space. You can find the podcast. It'll be on iTunes and Spotify. You'll also be able to find other information on videos and other content and media and things like that. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the next AsArt.